According to the Gottman Institute, couples wait an average of 6 years to receive help for a major problem in their marriage. Well, pornography is a major problem in your marriage. If this is part of what you're living with, it's time to stop living in denial. Now think about the 6 years. When I first say that, you probably think, that's not too bad. But think about going all the way through junior high and high school, dealing with the same problem day after day after day. 6 years is a long time. But when you're in the middle of it, sometimes denial feels easier than confronting the problem head on. I get it. I've been there. I waited longer than 6 years to acknowledge my husband's pornography addiction. But in that time, I felt wounded to my core. I felt intimidated, worthless, less than, ugly, and I was filled with shame. So if you relate to any of those feelings, my heart hurts for you, and I get it. But I have good news for you today. There is hope. So what is the step that you need to take? What are the next steps that you need to take to stop living in denial about your husband's pornography addiction? Well, the first one is, and I want you to consider this one carefully, the first one is, who is your best friend? Now, I call my best friend my heart sister. There's nothing that she doesn't know about me, and there's nothing I don't know about her. And I know that whatever I tell her, she's going to keep in confidence and she's going to encourage me. So who is your heart sister? If you've identified her, I want you to make an appointment with her. Now, if you can and you're able to meet in a public place where you could get a table that's kind of off in a corner and talk, go ahead and set up that time with her. Be prepared to talk to her. But if that's just puts you right over the edge, then invite her to your home when nobody else is going to be there. Just invite her over. Put a pot of coffee on, or a tea kettle, or whatever that, some nice cold lemonade, or whatever sounds good to you. Just invite her over and be prepared to come clean with her. You want someone to hear your heart, and you want someone to know the crisis that you're in. But more importantly, I hope for you, as it was for me, this heart sister knows the Lord, and she can pray for you and for your husband. She's going to hear your heart, but the worst thing that she can do for you right now is to bash your husband. While you may really enter into that and appreciate that, you need to know that you've been heard, but bashing your husband isn't going to help. You need someone who's going to agree to help you find a solution. The second thing you can do right now is you can consult a professional, whether that's a coach like me or another professional who specializes in sexual addiction. You need to reach out for an unbiased opinion. You need to have someone hear your feelings and validate what's going on. The aftershocks of the revelation of a pornography addiction are far-reaching. It literally destabilizes your world. Dr. Sherry Keffer says that betrayal unzips us to our very core. And boy, is that a beautiful way of saying what happens. That's exactly how I felt. And often, wives who uncover slowly and repeated actions of this betrayal actually experience PTSD. This has been documented. The continual aftershocks break down your emotional, mental, spiritual, and even physical health. And the longer you deny what you've uncovered, the more aftershocks you're going to experience and the more your disorientation grows. I remember when this happened, I couldn't remember anything. There was like a deep brain fog that descended on me. And I was someone who could keep dates and times and schedules and phone numbers and just all this minutia crystal clear in my head, and I couldn't come up with my own phone number. The brain fog was that deep. The only way to begin coming out of that brain fog is to start getting help from a professional. And then the last one, this is probably going to be the hardest one for you, is it's time to talk to your husband. Okay, take a deep breath. I know you're scared. I know you're angry. And if you're like I am, you probably can't even think right now. But you have to talk with your husband about what you've discovered or even suspect. The rest of your life is at stake, and I'm not being overly dramatic when I say that. When you have this suspicion or knowledge of pornography addiction hanging over you, It's all you can think about. It becomes all consuming. But how do you do this? Well, here's a couple ways that you could maybe start the conversation. First thing I'm going to tell you is make sure that you've been praying about this. And I hope that you've talked with your heart sister and maybe even consulted a professional before you do this. But you can start this conversation with, honey, I feel like there's something between us. Can we talk about that? Or maybe it's, I was going online to check a credit card charge for something I purchased, and I just wanted to verify that it was there and it had come through, and I noticed a charge there from a company that I didn't recognize. So before I call the company and put this charge in dispute, would you look at it? Do you know what this is? Again, we're starting the conversation not in an attacking mode, but in a way of trying to discover what's going on and hoping at this point that your husband will come clean. I'll never forget when Dave revealed his pornography addiction and how I felt. I literally felt like I was knocked off my feet. And as I heard the depth of this addiction, the wounds in my heart continued to grow. And while that I was reeling and I was in that deep brain fog, the best thing we did was talk about it. It doesn't help you to find it little bit by little bit. You need to have the full disclosure. Now, sometimes it's not easy to do that with just the two of you alone. You may need to sit down with a professional in sexual addiction and have that full disclosure conversation with that unbiased third party. That's okay. That's actually healthy, because the goal of this discovery and the goal of this revelation is not to drive a wedge between you, but to create a safe environment where you both can be heard and understand that there is a solution to the problem. Remember, I told you early on, there's hope. This does not need to be the end, and I want you to hear that. You and your husband both need to feel safe and heard during this discussion. But I am going to tell you something, that once you stop living in denial and you start to confront this problem head on, then you start to have a hope of healing. The truth stinks and it hurts. And Satan, who is known as the father of lies, wants nothing better than to keep you stuck in denial, because he tells you that if you reveal the truth, it's going to destroy you. But that is not what God says. God says there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, for those who speak the truth. And it goes on in the book of Romans to talk about how there is freedom when we come out of the denial, when we come out of the lies. Dave found freedom when he revealed his pornography addiction and when he came clean about all of it. I also discovered that what I was feeling was valid and the hurt that I was feeling had merit. And in that, I found freedom. No one made either of us feel less than or stupid or even rejected. Instead, we experienced the exact opposite. We experienced hope, understanding, grace, and the ability to begin healing. And that's what I want for you. If you've ever told a lie, there's nothing worse than trying to remember all the details of that lie, right? There's nothing worse. Well, it's the same thing here. When you're covering up the pornography addiction, when you're in denial, you're trying to remember, have I ever said anything about this? What has happened? Who knows what? All of that stuff. And yet when you say that, when you give the truth, when you speak the truth to those that are trustworthy, now remember, you're not going to blab this to everybody. You're going to start first with someone you can trust. When you tell the truth, there's a freedom that you experience that you have never experienced before, because no longer can this truth, this lie, this denial beat you over the head. Yes, there's pain and there's wounds that you have to overcome, but the good news is you can do it. I want to encourage you today, if you are suspicious or if you have discovered that your husband's addicted to pornography, that you take that first step out of denial. You can go over to KirstenDSamuel.com, and Kirsten is spelled Kirsten, D is in Diane, Samuel is SAMUEL.com, and click that blue button. Let's talk together. Let's discover your path out. I know from coaching other women that my Aftershock recovery method will help you get back on your feet again. You can break through that brain fog and you can find freedom.